So I'm going to make Jarlsberg and fennel seed muffins. It's a really simple savoury muffin recipe and totally delicious. It makes a nice alternative to a sandwich in your lunchbox or just as an afternoon snack if you're craving something a bit savoury and salty. What we have here is basically really straightforward ingredients. You've got Jarlsberg, which is a Norwegian cheese, very similar to Gruyere or Comte, the French style sort of alpine cheeses. And I'm going to grate that into the muffin mixture and sprinkle a little bit on top as well. And we've also got some nice spices and seeds. So here we've got fennel seeds, which will go, we'll sprinkle on top of the muffins, but also in the actual mixture to give a nice sort of crunch and fennel-y flavour, which is, some people don't like fennel, but I love the aniseed flavour of it. It's got a lovely fresh, zingy flavour. And then we've got cayenne pepper, which is really great with cheese. It's a sort of natural partner with cheese and gives a nice little bit of colour and heat to the recipe. And then we've got mustard powder, which is a great sort of classic English ingredient and so useful for so many things. Goes really well with cheese again, like cayenne. And yeah, so we're going to add that into the mixture. So here we've got our muffin tray, which we've filled with muffin cases. And we've got some flour. I'm using spelt flour, a mixture of wholemeal and plain spelt flour. And I find that spelt it gives a really lovely taste and texture to these muffins. And it's a really ancient grain. It's really goes back to the Romans, I think, and very popular in Scandinavia. It's a nice alternative to wheat and gives a nice sort of nutty flavour to these muffins. We've got some milk, which will help to give a nice moist texture. We've got 1 egg, which will go into our mixture. Then we've got a little bit of Marmite dissolved in hot water, which will just add a nice kind of savoury kick to the whole mixture. It goes really well with cheese, I find. We've also got some melted butter, which will give a nice sort of buttery, lovely flavour to it and add a bit of richness to the muffins. And that's it really. What we're going to do is, we've got our dry ingredients in here. We've got our flour, and I'm going to add to this some spices. So I'm going to add the cayenne to begin with. And really this is a matter of taste. You could add as much or as little as you like. I'd recommend about half a teaspoonful, just for that little bit of fiery chili kick. And then about the same amount of mustard. This gives a nice bit of kind of heat. And then 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds, which give a lovely pop in your mouth when you add them to this recipe. And then stir that all together, just to distribute the ingredients so that you don't get a kind of mouthful of fennel and cayenne and have your head blown off. And then we're going to add our raising agents. So we've got bicarb and baking powder. So we're going to add a teaspoon of our baking powder and about half that amount in bicarb, which will give a nice lift. Give it a good stir. It's always important with muffins to make sure that everything's stirred through, because you're not doing any mixing with an electric hand mixer or a standing mixer. So you just want to make sure everything's evenly distributed. So we want about 100 grams of cheese. And it's not too important how finely or how coarsely you grate the cheese. The important thing is that you get enough of it in for flavour. So don't worry too much about whether you have it on the coarse setting or the fine setting. I'm going to do the coarse setting. And of course you could use other cheeses. You could use cheddar, you could use Gruyere, Comte, which would be the closest approximation to Jarlsberg. You could use blue cheese. You could use any sort of cheese really. The next thing we're going to do is add our liquid ingredients, give them a quick stir, and then we're going to add the cheese before stirring everything through one last time and pop them in the oven. So pour that in, add your butter. The addition of liquid to the raising agents will start to basically start a chemical reaction so that everything starts bubbling and fizzing, and it's great, it's sort of in motion. But really what you want to do is get them as quickly into the oven so that you capitalize on that sort of raising of the mixture. And then we're going to add our cheese. So a nice heft of cheese. And a couple more stirs, basically until it comes together. You don't want to sort of over mix it. It's more important just to get into the oven so you get that nice lift. And beware that they will rise, so don't overfill the muffin cases too much. Just sprinkle a bit of extra cheese and also some fennel seeds on top. And you've got a lovely Jarlsberg and fennel seed muffin waiting for you in a mere 20-25 minutes. So that's it. You've got your Jarlsberg and fennel seed muffins ready to go. And all you do is put it in a preheated oven, 190 degrees Celsius, gas mark 5, and for 25 minutes. Keep checking obviously, but pop that in there and have a cup of tea while you wait. So we've got our Jarlsberg and fennel muffins, really delicious with a cup of tea, either at brunch or perhaps later on in the afternoon with a nice cold glass of beer. And I really recommend that you try, even if you're not a baker, try making some muffins because they are absolutely delicious. And in fact, these are Scandilicious muffins.